Grazie.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would now like to give the floor to President von der Leyen.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, President. Ladies and gentlemen. Europe is constituted by generations, and each generation has its own history. For the founding generation of our union, the history speaks of building a lasting peace, where all that was there was the pain and rubble of destruction. For the subsequent generation, it was a question of continuing prosperity and liberty by choosing linking up our single market and generating our single currency. Subsequently, there was a question of bringing our European family together by getting our brothers and sisters out of the cold and welcoming our brothers and sisters here at the heart of our union in our common house. All of these generations and all of these historical successes have been built on what had been inspired previously for those to come later. And the choices had always been either to go the way of the weakest link or to forge forward with a vision and an ambition in a common direction. At these decisive points in time, we have always chosen to forge forward together, because for Europe, the most ambitious measures are always those that are the most certain. Those are the ones that have allowed us to build a union of peace and prosperity, unprecedented and unparalleled in the history of the world.
Today, we face our very own defining moment. What started with a virus so small your eyes couldn't see it has become an economic crisis so big that you simply cannot miss it. Our unique model, built over 70 years, is being challenged like never before in our lifetime or in our union's history. The common European goods we have built together are being damaged. Things we take for granted are being questioned. There's the single market that needs to recover. There's the playing field that needs to be made even again. There are 4 freedoms that need to be fully restored. The crisis has huge externalities and spillovers across all countries. And none of that can be fixed by any single country alone. A bankrupt company in one member state is a reliable supplier gone for business in another. A struggling economy in one part of Europe weakens a strong economy in another part. This is about all of us, and it is way bigger than any of us. This is Europe's moment. We see the economic, fiscal, and social fallout across all member states. Divergences and disparities widened. Complex questions of sovereignty and burden sharing have to be balanced. And so, in front of us, once again, is that same binary choice. We either all go it alone, leaving countries, regions, and people behind, and accepting a union of haves and have-nots, or we walk that road together. We take that leap forward. We pave a strong path for our people and for the next generation. And for me, the choice is simple. I want us to take a new, bold step together. Europe is in a unique position to be able to invest in a collective recovery and a common future. In our union, people, business and companies depend and rely on each other. In our union, cohesion, convergence and investment are good for all. And in our union, we know that the boldest measures truly are the safest for the future. And this is why the Commission is today proposing a new recovery instrument called Next Generation EU, worth €750 billion. It will sit on top of a revamped long-term EU budget of €1.1 trillion. Next Generation EU, together with the core MFF, sums up to €1.85 trillion in today's proposal. It goes alongside the three safety nets of €540 billion already agreed by Parliament and Council. And in sum, this would bring our recovery effort to a total of €2.4 trillion. Honourable Members, allow me to explain how Next Generation EU will work. The money will be raised by temporarily lifting the own resources ceiling to allow the Commission to use its very strong credit rating to borrow money on the financial markets. This is an urgent and exceptional necessity for an urgent and exceptional crisis. Next Generation EU will invest in repairing our social fabric, protect our single market, help rebalancing balance sheets across Europe. And while we are doing this, we need to press fast forward towards a green, a digital and a resilient future, because this is the future of Europe's next generation. This generation that is globally connected and feels responsible for our world, our planet, with a clear vision to promote human dignity and the rule of law, determined to hold governments more accountable for fighting climate change and saving our nature, driven by the idealism for Europe and the belief that our union must strive for better. So beyond showing solidarity to overcome the crisis of today, I want to propose a new generational pact for tomorrow. Yes, the effects of this crisis mean that we need to make investments on an unprecedented scale today. But we will do it in a way that Europe's next generation will reap, will harvest the benefits tomorrow. Investments that will not only preserve the outstanding achievements of the last 70 years, but that will ensure that our union is climate neutral, is digital, is social, and a strong global player also in the future. And to make this happen, Next Generation EU will direct its massive financial power to invest in our common priorities through European programmes. And honourable members, I'm always keen to ensure that this House has its full say on crucial decisions of our union. My proposal to invest these funds via programmes in our European budget achieves exactly that. Next Generation EU will restore and rebuild our single market, that great generator of innovation, prosperity and opportunity. All member states need to invest in technologies that will spark the recovery through new innovation and clean industries. Next Generation EU strengthens the European Green Deal and Horizon Europe, and will invest in key infrastructure from 5G to housing renovation. At the same time, we must ensure that the transition to a climate-neutral economy leaves nobody behind. Next Generation EU will therefore multiply the funding for the Just Transition Fund. And in the same vein, no member state should have to choose between responding to the crisis or investing in our people. Therefore, Next Generation EU increases Erasmus and youth employment support. It makes sure that people get the skills and the training and the education they need to adapt to this rapidly changing world. Next Generation EU will help those perfectly healthy companies that have made the right decisions and investment over decades, but that find themselves at risk now because competitors and other member states have better access to public or private money to get fresh capital. It will invest in key European industries and technologies to make crucial supply chains more resilient. It will ensure Europe remains cutting edge in key areas like artificial intelligence, precision farming, or green engineering. And Next Generation EU will help make our health systems more resilient for future crises. This investment will be a new European common good. It will show the true and tangible value of being part of the Union. And it will be owned by us all. In total, the Commission will raise €750 billion for Next Generation EU. Of that total, 500 billion will be distributed in grants and 250 billion in loans passed on to member states. Meine Damen und Herren Abgeordnete.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear. These grants are a common investment in our future. Given the debts of the past in member states, these have nothing to do with this. These will go through the European budget, and that will limit and restrict the amount that any member state would have to pay. These are labelled as investments in our priorities, in strengthening the single market, in digitalisation, in the European Green Deal, in resilience, and even more. The European budget has always been made up of grants. This is nothing new. Grants for specific investment, grants for increased cohesion, grants to improve cohesion in social and economic areas. And the fact that this has worked proves that this can work as well. The competitiveness of the European Union and living standards is equal to everybody in the member states. The member states have seen all of their purchasing power increase. And so this will multiply prosperity for everybody in the way that Next Generation EU will. We're investing jointly in Europe's future, and we will have a very specific and well-defined way of paying this back in future. Over and above this, the Commission will also make sure that there will be a new range of own resources. These could, for example, be worked on extending the carbon tax, or looking at dangerous products that harm the environment coming from outside the EU, or new digital tax, where millions of euros in profits are being made. We can draw on that to pay into the common funds. We need to be ambitious, and I count on your full support on this.
Meine Damen und Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, it's high time to take the right decision. Those who today will set aside these ambitious investments, then I would say to them, the cost of not investing in this crisis will come back manifold in the future. It's the question of laying the foundations for our common future now, and also defining very clearly how in future we can exit crisis situations and not be indebted by them. So let us leave these old prejudices to one side. Instead of that, let us rediscover the power that comes from this joint and common goal of getting out of this crisis. Of course, we're under great pressure, but just as great is the opportunity for Europe and taking our responsibility to do the right thing in this situation. We can set down the foundations for a climate-neutral Europe, a digital Europe, a more resilient Europe, a more social Europe that is even better than it has been before. 70 years ago, under the names of our founding fathers and mothers, they took the first step towards a Europe of peace, a union of prosperity. They created that step. Today is now to look at adding our chapter to that story, to take a further bold step to a union of sustainability. We owe this to the next generation. Long live Europe.
Maria, qual è? Grazie.